Hello, everybody. My name is Dratnus, and welcome to City of Threads, a four-boss dungeon, the last of the ones testable up on the War Within Alpha, where you're infiltrating a city of threads, is the main idea. Little bit of a kind of opening slog of a bunch of trash here before you can get to the first boss. We've got a little holographic projection of Queen Ansarek, which is the raid boss of the first raid of the expansion. And in this area, we have Silk Binders that cast web bolts and silk bindings that are slowing you or rooting you, web wrapping you, that kind of stuff. We've got Swarm Guards as well, which are these big things that I don't know exactly what they do. They do earth shatters. You want to dodge big cones. And you've got Heralds of Ansarek. So this Shadows of Doubt ability you can see on me. I'm kind of pulsing in some directions. When I get dispelled, it's going to shoot out in those directions projectiles that you're going to want to try and avoid. And either when I get dispelled or when it expires. And I think until you get dispelled, you're taking damage. That's a first boss mythic mechanic as well. That is very similar to that, but not something you'll encounter actually on the boss on lower difficulties. But it's sort of similar to the prideful, shooting out things, except it looks like it goes on 2 players every time it happens, at least from these trash mobs, which none of those are in this pull. But yeah, you can see quite a large pull here. Again, we've got the Swarm Guards putting a dot on everybody as well, so some healing needing to be done there. And yeah, the combination of getting slowed plus the Earth Shatter, a little bit deadly there. I popped Astral Shift before I got hit by that, and I still got put down to half health. And this is normal difficulty as well, so presumably that's going to hit very hard if you do end up getting hit by it. So try and avoid that. And Venom Blades in this area as well didn't seem to do all that much, at least on normal difficulty. Maybe a tank damage mob. But mostly you're just looking at the Swarm Guards, the Silk Binders, and the Heralds in this area being the most important enemies that have the most abilities. Since that is what this pull consists of, I guess we're dealing with it pretty quick. I was getting pretty close to skipping forward, but you can still keep seeing a little bit of the kind of architecture, the layout of this dungeon, which I think sometimes when I skip forward, you lose a little bit of kind of learning what the layout looks like. So I try not to do it unless we're pulling a lot of the same mobs over and over again, and I'm really struggling for things to talk about. Looks like I opened my spellbook here for some mysterious reason, so you can see that instead of there was something I was looking for. I forget what I was looking for, but there was something I was looking for that I wasn't sure if I had keybound, so I was taking a quick look there. Okay, so we have some Heralds in this pull, 2 Heralds actually, and you can see again more of these Shadows of Doubt coming out. So actually 2 of them landing on the same 2 people, and there you can see those projectiles being shot out in a bunch of directions, and I think if it hits you, it stuns you. Maybe it leaves behind those puddles. I'm not actually 100% sure here, as you can see. Now, again, another 2 of us have it, and looks like we're dropping these dark puddles as well until it's dispelled. Yeah, pretty nasty ability. I like how it pre-telegraphs where you're going to shoot, though, directionally, so that it's pretty easy for you to plan, dodge, set up, if you want to, which you do. You do want to. So here's the first boss, Orator Crixvizg. Not the most pronounceable boss, but we are clearing out some trash here before we get in combat, which somebody, I think, pulls it shortly here. Yeah, okay, we get right into combat here. So this boss has that kind of Tazavesh Gambit mechanic where it grips you in. And because we have a Herald here, we're also dealing with those projectiles that are being shot in a bunch of different directions, and also a bunch of icky ground and stuff. There, that stun, I think, is if you get hit by one of the orbs. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, this boss, you have to stay within like 10 yards of it. It's doing this Terrorize Frontal that you're trying to dodge. It's doing Subjugate, which is, I think, tank damage. And it's doing this Vociferous Indoctrination, which is pulsing a bunch of damage on the group and then leaves behind a puddle, so you're going to have to move the boss and move out of this. But as you're trying to do that, it's also doing its other abilities. If you run outside of this circle, not only do you get yanked back into the boss, but you also take a moderate chunk of damage as well. So it's going to be a very claustrophobic encounter. Pretty cool one, though. Pretty cool idea. And you can potentially pull the boss to use it to get everybody gripped there as well. So there may be some cool uses for that. Now, this next area there's guards or stuff of the queen, so you need a perfume before you can walk into this next area over the side of the bridge here. And first, you have to intimidate this perfume vendor, beat it down to half health, expert perfumer, and then you have to wait for some RP. If you walk forward before waiting for the RP and you get off of the bridge, then bang, the guards show up, as you can see up there, and they channel on you, and then they send you back to the start. So want to avoid that if you can. But as soon as you get the actual debuff on you, then you're clear to walk forward here. And so not only is your presence masked, but you're able to actually see this trail of pheromones, perfume, something like that, that will help you identify which of the residents here are actually the Queen's spies. The Queen has 4 spies hidden in this area, and there's also then a bunch of other mobs that aren't going to be hostile towards you, because your perfume is working, I guess, even though you're, in combat killing off some Nerubians, but I guess they're cool with that. Maybe they can't really see that well. They just can smell, and you smell totally normal. But if you get within that dashed circle, you will alert the priests, which is bad. You don't want to do that. But you can fight the neutral mobs either by accident or by choice in this area. And then the whole game is basically just running around this area until you can pick up the scent of another one of the spies, which is those little images showing up. So we'll see what that looks like here in a second. The next time we catch one of their scents, we got one of them pretty early, and now we're looking around. I don't know if they spawn in the same places every time or what, but yeah, you can see there's a bunch of residents here, and there, you see these purple images? These are the, things that are telling you where a spy was, and if you follow these, eventually, it should lead you to a spy, unless you're following them backwards instead of forwards. But yeah, we kind of took our time here, so I'll skip ahead a little bit to show you. I don't think you're normal. Actually, I won't skip ahead because I will show you. This one took a long time for us to actually get to where we were supposed to. I think it was just because we were kind of going sort of slow, but once you learn what this looks like, you're kind of following, and there you can see we did eventually find the resident that we wanted. So again, we've got the Eye of the Queen, although this time it summoned some reinforcements as well. The Eye of the Queen didn't do all that much, although it does like Shadow Step, go stealth. So here's Void Rush, where it just kind of dashes everybody and does a bunch of damage, and then it like disappears, and then it'll do like a cone attack, which is a pretty cool cone as well, because you can see right there, it like draws the cone back from the end towards where the eye is, and then the eye becomes visible and attackable. So it's actually a really neat looking effect. I like it a lot. I think it's the first time they've done an effect that looks exactly like that. So yeah, there's 2 of the 4 eyes down, and now I think you're just supposed to kind of run around until you pick up the scent again, and avoid pulling anything. The good news is, of course, you can avoid pulling anything in this area because there's no hostile mobs except for the ones that have that blue dashed line around them. So you could split up here and go and find your spies that way. Potentially, you could have 2 people activate spies, simultaneously maybe, and then meet back up in the middle and kill them at the same time. I'm not sure, but you can see up where we are right now, we haven't found any pheromones yet. We're still looking for them, but we need to kind of do a better job of like running around, I guess, this entire bazaar area, the High Hollows here, and see if we can actually pick up the scent of the next spy, which is there. You can see now we've got the scent of one of them, and follow it around until we reach another resident, which this one, okay, now it's doing like a U-turn again, and we could have definitely keep going that way, yeah, and up the stairs here. So again, quite a slog, and it looks like the trail has ended. So it looks like we were accidentally following the trail backwards, not forwards. Oopsie. Maybe you can like look at them and see they're facing, but if you look at these mobs, it looks like they're facing that way, right? It looks like they're facing the other direction, rather than like, like it looks like they're all facing the wrong way for the path to be, right? Not like leading us away from the resident, right? Rather than towards it. So maybe that's just a bug or something, because I feel like it would make more sense if all those were turned around and were leading us towards where it had been walking. And that would have made... I think that's the reason why we got tricked there. Probably is just a bug, an alpha thing, but not 100% sure on that. Either way, next one of the 4 gets taken out, and then you repeat the process one more time, which I will skip ahead a little bit to show you. You follow a couple more of these images, find the last one, kill it off, and once you kill it off, Executor Nizrek is like, okay, cool. We've gotten rid of all the spies. Now the Queen is not going to know, and I'm gonna help you. I'm on your team now, and down there at the bottom of the stairs, just over the left, you can see there's like a friendly mob. I think you have to talk to it. I don't know. obviously was AFKing up here, but looks like you just talk to that friendly mob and it just escorts you up into the next area. And presumably now, on our side, going to help us out. The plan is going to go swimmingly. We've got, we've I guess, flipped the Executor here, and now we're going to go and just take out the Queen. No need to do a raid. No need to do anything like that. We've got a, agent on the inside. We're going to walk into this not at all ominously boss room shaped area, and nothing is going to go wrong. And we'll learn a little bit about the politics of the Nerubians in this area as we go on our little adventure up towards just killing the Queen and being done with War Within nice and early, ready for the next expansion. But unfortunately, bang! Here come the 2 Fangs of the Queen. So this is the next boss fight here. And they're not happy about the betrayal that has happened with Executor Nizrek here. And they're going to kill him, but not yet. First, they have to deal with us. So that's good because we have a different plan here. So these 2 mobs share health. This is a boss fight. They share health. And they have a couple different mechanics. There are these shade slashes that are dodges. There's also ice knives. So there's shade slash again. You can see it kind of does the thing where it remembers the previous one as well. And you're going to dodge there. Dustbringer that you want to not stand in. Ice sickles, which shoot out knives that will pierce as well. And on Mythic, they target 5 people. There's also this shade step thing where they kind of both charge the same person and do an X through that person. We want to dodge out of that. On Mythic, there's also a paranoia mechanic, similar to the end of Darkheart Thicket. Not the one where you have to stack, just the one where if you get too close to somebody, I think you horrify them rather than they horrify you, is how it works on this fight, at least from the Dungeon Journal. But that is a mechanic that you have as well on that one. And yeah, other than that, you're blasting them down. Again, we killed the bosses a little bit too quickly to actually see all the mechanics here, which I'm sorry about that, but that is what I could glean from the Dungeon Journal at least. So now we make our way up into the remainder of the dungeon here, making our way in towards, I guess, the Grand Splicer's lab. Bunch of different enemies in this area. Kind of a fun big AoE pull, it looks like, that's doable here, because these Sureki conscripts don't do all that much. The Webmancers you can just kick in, and then you can just blast everything, which is sweet. Love blasting everything. I love a nice big AoE pull. Not every pull should be just pull 20 mobs that don't do anything, but every once in a while it does hit pretty nicely to have a pull like that. So it's a fun little one that you can do out here as you then climb the stairs, heading towards the house of the last boss. Again, we got another pull of a bunch of conscripts, a couple of marauders and webmancers here as well. And at the top of the stairs, we have another one of those swarm guards. And yeah, I think there's not too much here. It looks like the conscripts do a stacking damage increase on their ability on the tank. So this may be a case of if you pull too many conscripts, your tank's going to die. Or maybe a case of, use an AoE stun so that your tank can live for a while. And it's actually a venom shell up here, not a swarm guard. So does this venomous spray ability, which is making green swirlies we want to dodge. Okay, maybe they poison if they hit. I don't know. Looks like we dodged all of them, so no way to know what happens if you get hit by them, but it's probably not a damage buff. And then we get into the Transformatory. So again, even though it's a 4-boss dungeon, the last 2 bosses are both inside here, and you can get to them very quickly. We have these Sureki Unnaturalers, which are doing some dark science on these webbed venom or webbed targets, and you can spawn enemies by walking over any of these web wraps if you want to fight an extra enemy as well. But yeah, you're mostly just trying to kill off the stuff here. You can see, but you can see earlier when you run over the web victims, you get some extra enemies, so maybe there'll be a fun way to get some extra count in this area. But yeah, then the last boss is just up through there. But before we can do the last boss, we have to go down towards where the 3rd boss lives, which is in this little room here. We got a bunch of fun little droppies that we can kill off first, and then we will have the Coaglamation boss to deal with next. This one is pretty mechanics light. Not a whole lot going on in this one. We've got a bunch of swirlies that are, grouping up, forming the Coaglamation, and it was pretty tank and spank encounter. Obviously, it's normal dungeon, everything's like that. But even looking at the Dungeon Journal, it's mostly a tank and spank fight. There's some AoE damage, viscous darkness here. knocking everybody back, and later in the fight there will be puddles at the edge of the room that you don't want to stand in. And you have these orbs that rush towards the boss. If they reach the boss, they heal it for a bunch. If you soak them instead, then you get a big old healing absorb. So that's your option of which of those you prefer. Probably you're getting the healing absorb. That's probably the better way to deal with it. Maybe if you've got a big Mortal Strike effect, you don't care. But then you have Void Surge, which is going to basically turn these reservoirs at the side of the room into expanding dark puddles that you don't want to be standing in or you don't want to get knocked in. But other than that, pretty easy fight. I'm not sure if it had a mythic mechanic either, but then we get on towards the last boss, which you've got one little trash pool to deal with here, although you could have already done this if you wanted to, with a big unstable test subject, does an uninterruptible dark barrage that is just a bunch of swirlies to dodge, and then a bunch of assistant unnaturalers that seems to do like a little unimpactful cast that you can kick or let through, and it does a little bit of damn. Here we have two honored citizens that are being transformed by the last boss here, and they turn into a Shade Weaver, which you can kick. I think is just the main thing this one has. I'm not sure if it has any unkickable abilities. It does. It's called Umbral Weave. Let's see what it does. It roots us all, and it makes little roots that you have to kill to do it. It also has a shield on itself. And then over there you can see the War Shell, which was briefly attackable, and then went unattackable, and that bug prevented us from being able to see any more of this dungeon, but presumably you kill off the War Shell, and then you fight the last boss, which let's now take a look at the Dungeon Journal here. Let me pause this and go back over to the Dungeon Journal here, where we do have Izzo the Grand Splicer. So this boss, first off, actually, let's just check if there was a mythic mechanic on... Okay, yeah, there's a slow that spreads around on the coagulation is the mythic mechanic. Okay, on Izzo the Grand Splicer. So we have spheres of anomalous energy that do a bunch of shadow damage and knock back players on contact, and they relocate around every 9 seconds. We have a Splice, which is a dot, a 6-second dot that does a medium amount of damage. We have a Tremor Slam, where Izzo uses her mastery of alchemical transformation to become one of the big Nerubian lords, slams the ground, doing damage to all players and extra damage to anybody within 12 yards. Awakening Scarabs that emerge, attack players, and if they can attack 5 times, then they explode with a big old gut burst that also stuns players within 5 yards for 4 seconds. So I want to make sure you got away from that if that happens. Or she can transform into one of those casters instead. So the two mini bosses there, or mobs before the boss, are the two things that she can transform into. If she transforms into the caster instead, then she'll do that snare ability where everybody gets snared, takes a bunch of damage, and rooted until either 12 seconds have passed or you destroy the weave that is on the players. And then finally, there's Process of Elimination, which is a tank slam. Recalls all anomalies to her location, smashes them into her target one at a time, doing shadow and physical damage to players within 10 yards, a total of 3 times over 3 seconds. So a big, massive hybrid magic and physical tank slam over the course of several seconds. Seems like a pretty cool tank mechanic. All of the abilities that are related to turning into the Nerubian Lord are mythic difficulty only, by the way. So if you're doing it on the lower difficulties, you're only going to deal with the anomalies that you want to dodge, the tank slam, the healing, and the snare mechanic. That is a look at the City of Threads dungeon. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.